Hey guys, my name's Eric. Welcome back to another episode of Dudes Who Brew, and today we're going to be talking about hydrometers and refractometers. I'm going to teach you how to use them, when to use them, and why you use them. So go grab yourself a beer and we'll be right back. So we have a bunch of people, they come into the shop all the time and they want to know, why is my beer not fermenting? The first question I ask is, did you take a gravity reading? Most of the answers I get back are no. They say they're looking for the bubbles to be coming out of the airlock. That is one way, yes, to see if your beer is fermenting. However, that's not the only way to tell. So just by looking at those bubbles coming out of the airlock means CO2 is being released from the fermenter and coming out, and the airlock is not allowing any more air to come inside the fermenter. Even the slightest leak from the lid, or maybe where the bung is, could be causing the CO2 to escape from there versus coming out the airlock. The only real way to check is by taking a hydrometer sample. So let's see how we do that. Now this is a hydrometer reading with 0 sugar and distilled water. It's at 1.000. That simply means there's no sugar inside this water. Now let's say you made a wort and the original gravity was around 1.060. As that yeast starts to eat the sugars, your reading of the hydrometer will be going down. The higher up it is, this means there's more sugar inside the beer. Typically, really high alcoholic beers have really high gravity readings for the original gravities. Now, after 3 straight days of the same hydrometer reading, the beer should be done and it should be time to bottle or keg the beer. Another note to add about hydrometers is they are temperature calibrated. So this hydrometer is calibrated at 60 degrees. So the only time this reading is going to be 100% accurate is if your wort temperature is at 60 degrees. Otherwise, there's online calculators that you can use to calculate the current temperature versus your hydrometer calibrated temperature. And you'll put in your hydrometer reading and it'll tell you the actual reading of the hydrometer. Typically, if you have a really hot wort and it's around 90 degrees and your hydrometer is calibrated at 60, your hydrometer reading is actually going to be a lot lower than what it really is. Another way to measure your original gravity is using a refractometer. A refractometer has a little window on the inside that reflects light against the prism. So what you do is you take a wort sample using a little pipette, you put it on the blue screen and you shut the window. You wait about 30 seconds and you look on the inside and you'll be able to see your reading in bricks. Typically the rule of thumb is you multiply the bricks times 4 and that gives you your original gravity. The only offset to using a refractometer is that once the beer starts fermenting, your reading's not going to be accurate. So you have to go to a hydrometer. The biggest upturn to the refractometer versus the hydrometer is the sample size. The hydrometer, you have to have about a 12-inch test jar or a 14-inch test jar, and you have to have it filled with wort to get a sample. This, on the other hand, you just use that little pipette and you put just little small drops on here, and you don't use that much wort for a sample. So that's just the basics of how to use a hydrometer and a refractometer. In my personal opinion, a hydrometer is the way to go. Refractometers, sometimes they have to be calibrated, and you can always compare them to a hydrometer to see how far off your refractometer is. But in my opinion, I'd always use a hydrometer. And plus, once the beer starts fermenting, your refractometer doesn't really work. So thanks for joining us on this episode of Dudes Who Brew. Be sure to check us out next week as we're going to be brewing with the mash and boil system. It's the one way to go from extract to all grain. It's an all-in-one system. It's really, really cool. And it's just kind of like a plug and play. So be sure to join us next week and we'll see you later. Refractometer uses light that shines through the prism. I think, let me look that up. Turn you on. Got that on, I think. That on? Yeah. Anyone coming? Nope. So you can use your hydrometer to calibrate your original gravity and your final gravity. That's about all you can use it for, I guess.